Traders, how are you? With Marcello. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. This week we have some interesting news about a law that was passed in the United States where there's going to be an automatic inscription for men the ages of 18 to 24 to go to war, to automatically be registered for the draft or into the military. We also have news about AI with Apple, Elon Musk wanting to ban Apple because of the AI, and a lot more news. Let's go ahead and get started. Overall, the exchange of the United States, the only one that was negative was the Dow, and the Communist Republic of Canada, they were negative 1.89% as well. The NASDAQ and the S&P 500 were all positive. Not a whole lot of economic news this week, but I found a few things that were interesting in the conspiracy section. The House, as I mentioned, passed a measure that will auto-register all men ages 18 to 26 for the Selective Service as part of the annual plan. I missed a word there, but now it's headed to the Senate. Now, really interesting. Why would the government automatically be inscribing people to the military if everything was fine and we weren't going to go to war with somebody? So preppers are right. There's Fauci's department was concealing plans to create a mutant monkeypox virus that could have started a pandemic, according to an explosive congressional report. I don't know about you guys, but I don't understand why they just decide to try to make these viruses worse. If you remember the story also, I believe this was about 3 months ago, where they found viruses in the Arctic and the permafrost due to the fact that the snow is melting. And they want to take those viruses that are millions of years old, that nobody has protection, immunity from, and automatically make them stronger too. I mean, it's just like these people it's almost as stupid that they're actually trying to do it on purpose, not by accident, but on purpose, which is, what I believe. And Saudi Arabia's decision not to renew a 50-year-old petro-dollar agreement with the United States. It expired on Sunday, June 9th. This is actually, that's something that's really important due to the fact that the reason that the United States is the lone superpower in the world is because Saudi Arabia did decide to sell oil, in dollars. Now, if you didn't know, everybody in the world uses dollars. This is starting to change quite a bit, but if, China needed to pay Spain, or if France needed to pay Brazil, or every country within themselves always had to change their money into dollars, and then they paid people with dollars. So it was the reserve currency around the world. This is the reason why the dollar is basically as strong as it is, or it was, I should say. But now a lot of countries are starting to make internal direct agreements with each other to use their own currencies, especially up-and-coming economies like India and China and Russia, for example. With China, Russia this week decided to ban completely any operation of euros and dollars on their exchanges. I thought that was really interesting because if you don't know, there's more dollars outside of the United States than there is in the United States. So as more and more people stop using the dollar and more of those dollars come home, the inflation is going to skyrocket when all of those dollars come back. It's a simple supply and demand issue where if there's a lot of something, it becomes really cheap. If there's not a lot of something, it becomes very expensive. So in dollar terms, or in currency terms, if it becomes really cheap, that means that the inflation is going to go up, or costs are going to go up dramatically. Another thing that was really interesting this week is they want to start a new stock exchange in Texas to compete against the ones in New York. I thought that was really interesting. Seems like people are tired of the Communist Republic of New York, and they want a little bit of freedom in Texas. The European markets and international market news, those were mostly mixed. The Paris was the biggest loser there at almost negative 7%. Latam was mostly higher. The Merval, as usual, has been going up quite a bit due to the new libertarian president Milei. He went up over 4%, while the biggest market in Latin America, which was the Bovespa in Brazil, went down 0.92%. Asia and Australia were mixed. Asia, Australia, that whole area was mixed. Hong Kong was the biggest loser there. And then in the Bitcoin news, not a whole lot of Bitcoin news, but it is lower this week. It went down by 5.4% to 65,886. I took the number on Friday night, so it could have changed quite a bit on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, just so you know. In commodities, crude, the inflation rate was lower than expected. So now there's a, not an expectation, but a hope that the central bank in the United States is going to lower the interest rates, or at least lower them faster than what they believed. And so that implies that the economy is going to start moving again, and that's why we had a little bit of an increase in oil. The interest rates, remember, are the single most important thing when it comes to the economy in the world, and mostly in the United States. About 70% of the economy in the U.S. is consumer spending. So whenever they lower the interest rates, everything gets cheaper for everybody, and people go out and buy stuff, and that means that 70% of the economy is moving. Once they get low enough, and mortgage rates come down and car rates come down, that means people go out and buy more houses, buy more cars, and that's another about 17% of the economy. So the interest rates is extremely important when it comes to the economy overall. Crude for the week, U.S. crude went up 3.86% to 78.45. International crude went up 3.76% to 82.62. A mining report from Norway says that they found a new mega deposit of rare earth metals. If you don't know, rare earth metals are, rare in the earth. They're rarer than silver. That was a bad joke. It was a dad joke, sorry. But they're more rare. They're gold and silver, and they have very important applications because they go in military equipment, they go in cell phones, all kind of computers. And unfortunately, the majority of the rare earth mines around the world, the deposits and the mines, are controlled by China. China. And he's back. And it's a problem because China could just decide to cut us off completely, which is not bueno at all, especially for our military. So by Europe being able to have that now, there's a little bit of a reprieve in terms of the control that China can have in regards to the rare earth metals. Gold went up by 1.73% to 2,333 with 80 cents, while silver went up 1.36% to 29.63. Financial and banking news, as I mentioned, the inflation rate was lower than what it was expected. For the last 3 years, starting in January 2021 to March 2024, home prices have gone up 33.9%. Household energy went up 29.8%. Car maintenance and repair went up 30.5%. And car insurance went up 51.3%. And what I think is happening is a lot of these companies are deciding to raise their prices more than they should to be able to get more profit and just blame it on inflation. As you can see, for example, the car insurance went up a lot higher than the rest of the other things. In political news, Biden's approval rating sunk to the lowest ever at 37.4%, which is disapproval rate at 56.6%. Hunter Biden, son of President Biden, is guilty of all 3 counts at his criminal gun trial in Delaware. So now both President Trump and his son Hunter Biden of President Biden have been convicted of felonies to protect President Biden. Isn't that interesting? Economic news, the consumer sentiment in June in the United States declined. And remember, the consumer sentiment does have to do with the consumer spending. So if it declines, that means that people are less likely to go out and spend money, which means that the economy is moving a lot less, which is not bueno. In corporate news, Apple finally disclosed their long-awaited strategy for AI, artificial intelligence. To make sure that everybody knows that they're not falling back on the AI race. They made an agreement with ChatGPT and also decided to put all of their intelligence tech throughout, all their AI, intelligence tech throughout all their suite of apps. One of the things also is that they're going to bring, as I mentioned, ChatGPT to its devices. And Elon Musk said that he's not going to allow Apple devices into any of his companies, and they're going to be put in a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage is kind of like a bag that blocks all communication in his companies if they decide to put ChatGPT on the Apple OS, Apple software at the core level. I thought this was really interesting because if you remember OpenAI, they seem to be psychopaths, especially this founder of OpenAI, ChatGPT, where they requested Scarlett Johansson to use her voice for the new system at ChatGPT. Scarlett Johansson, the actress, said no, and then they copied her voice anyway. And then they had to remove it when she threatened a lawsuit, blah, blah, blah. But you can see how crazy they are when it comes to just doing whatever they feel like, and they probably do feel that way because the artificial intelligence could do anything they want without anybody noticing right now. The entire value of the S&P 500 is $45.5 trillion. Elon Musk is saying that his Optimus humanoid robot could eventually make the automaker Tesla worth 50% of that. At Tesla, Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, also did his yearly presentation about the company and where it's heading. It's really interesting. He talks a lot about a lot of things about Tesla and the future and SpaceX and everything. It's really interesting. You guys should listen to it. It's on X under Elon Musk's profile. I'm sorry if you guys can hear the helicopter, but I got a mic here, but you might be able to hear it anymore, so sorry about that. Investment news: a New York City office skyscraper located on 4th Street is being sold at a 67% discount. Before, it was sold for $153 million. Now it's at only $50 million. That kind of shows you the crisis that we are still going to go through when it comes to commercial real estate. Tesla shareholders approved again Elon Musk's pay package worth $56 billion. He also received approval from the shareholders to reincorporate the company in Texas from Delaware. Most likely going to be a exodus now from companies in Delaware due to the fact that they're going after Elon Musk this way. And in international events, a deluge in South Florida. They had in Sarasota, for example, which is kind of in the middle of Florida near Tampa. They had a 1,000-year flood. They're supposed to receive 7.74 inches of rain in June, and they received, I think it was 10 inches or 20, 30 inches of rain literally in about an hour or so. If you guys saw in Florida, people in a raised G-Wagon were skiing in the streets. I love Florida. And Tampa normally receives 7.3 inches of rain in June, but they received way above that. Sarasota is just south of Tampa. Russia offered a peace offering, but NATO denied it. And remember, we went to 2 weeks to stop the spread to now Russian nuclear submarines being off the coast of Florida. And interesting news, a skull fragment in Greece was found to be dated 210,000 years ago, which is changing the idea that we all came from Africa. It's at least 15 years older than the oldest skeleton that they found from Africa, which I thought was really interesting. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, the preppers were right. See you next week.